I started doing a practice that was able to get me into this really clear, energized state every day. But it was 4 hours long. And I had the time because I wasn't doing anything. I was just all into practicing. But then in my mind, I was thinking, okay, this works, but how do I condense this down? And
What was the practice? The 4 hours one.
so the 4 hours one, so I would start off, I would do this one circuit that was about 15 minutes long. It was a method that I learned from Master Stephen Coe. And he does this practice called pranic healing. And there's this routine I learned, you know. And so he's doing different breath holds, he's doing different arm swings and all these things. I was like, man, it's really good and really short. Within like 11, 12 or like under 15 minutes, you can feel this reset in the body. So I was like, that's awesome. So that was like throughout the day, I would just do that, right? And I memorized it and I started doing it throughout. That was my first thing. And then after that, I was doing a practice called Tridosha. It's called Tridosha series. It was learned by my previous partner. She went to India, went to Goa, I think, Sri Kali Ashram. So a guru named Bhagavan.
Right.
And he was like third generation yogi. He didn't learn it from masters. His masters was his father and his grandfather and his mother, and taught him like everything. And he knows like Shaolin Kung Fu, all these different yoga practices. And so he's like straight old school. And so she learned this Tridosha series. It's supposed to clear all three of the doshas. And so it's a very easy, it's a calm practice. It's not about strength, it's about just clearing. So you start off, you lay on the ground, you do right knee to chest, you know, and then afterwards you do like spinal twists, and they stay there, right knee, left knee to chest, spinal twist, double knee to chest, come, and then you lay there, you do a couple inhales, you max out your air, so you're like filling everything with oxygen, and then shoo, you relax. And then afterwards you go and, so it's like just systematically opening up the body. And so that practice was like 45 minutes long. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I would do that. And then I would go into some forward fold series, you know, which is similar to what we did today. And then after that, I would go into plyometrics. So I'm like, okay. And I was like, so push-ups, handstand, pull-ups, all these things. And then after that, I'll go into breath work. And so I'll do different things like fire breath, left to right alternating nostrils, like, or the other left right alternating nostril, right? Exhale, inhale with the holds. Then I'll do like Kriyas, like exhale 5, inhale 5, or exhale 5, hold for 5, inhale 5, hold for 5. I'll do like cobra breaths, or like actually there was like a 9 breath, like by a guy named, a friend that was living there, he taught me that one. And then finally, I'll go into meditation. So I was doing this every day. And when I'm done, I'm like,
On fire.
oh man, so calm. I can just sit, it's like, I'm just totally in the flow, so clear. But it was literally 4 hours every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I know this works, 'cause I can feel the difference when I don't do it. But how do I transfer this to other people? And plus, a lot of stuff that I was doing, like it'll take a while to learn. It's a little more complicated. It takes a long time. And I was thinking, I want to teach somebody, the average Joe, that doesn't know how to do any of this, how to do this and be able to do it by themselves, and teach other people how to do it without having a lot of training. I'm like, okay. So I started looking at this 4-hour practice, and I started seeing what can I do to go ahead and make it really, really simple, shorten it to the least amount of time possible, and also be able to create the same effect and have it to where an advanced person or somebody like you that practices yoga all the time, or somebody that is 60 years old who doesn't do any exercise can be next to each other doing the same practice. So these were kind of like the parameters. So I started working, I started tinkering with a lot of stuff. And then I finally figured out a sequence on what we did today, like specific exercises are prepping for the next exercise. For example, and it's like to create more effects. Like for example, doing leg raises works on your abs, and then when you do run in place, it works on your abs more. You know? And after you run in place, your legs are warmed up, and then you do the kicks. And then after you do the kicks, you're already in this kick function, and then you're twisting, so then you go right into strikes. And so it's like stacking them in a way, so they build on top of each other. And then same thing with the first sequence of first you do the tops to open up everything. Because let's say somebody's half asleep when they wake up. But then after you wake up everything, it's not fully awake. Maybe you're about 20%. Then you slap everything and you kind of wake up everything, but it's not stretched, it's just stimulated. But then the stimulation is kind of like a good start, but you're not fully stretched, you're not in really movement, you're just kind of like a little more stimulated, you feel this little buzz starting. And then we went from feet all the way up, and then we work our head all the way down. So we did all the stuff in the face, right? We did neck first, then face, drop down arms, chest, hips, moving all the way down, right? And then we finish up lifting it back up with power-ups, right? Through the dantian, so we open up the channel, and then we open up the throat, so this way it allows expression to come. How many times do people talk and the throat gets locked up? And how many times do people talk through the chest and not through the stomach? And they breathe through the chest. So when we go hoo hoo, the hoo sound brings energy naturally from here. That sound activates this area down here, right? And it brings it up. And so when we reach, so now the energy is back up. So we just kept circulating up and down. Then now that's back up, we go into part 2. So now we're doing strength. And so it took me a while to like figure out like, okay, putting these sequences. And the thing is like this practice is constantly evolving. There's a principle that we teach, and it's called natural progression. And it's really simple. You don't worry about progressing. If you have the intention to progress, all you do is just do the action, do the practice, do the movements, and your body will naturally progress. Because when you do something, it gets easier and easier. And at that point, if you want the intention to progress, you can do something that can make it a little more challenging. And it's a natural progression because you're never having to try to progress. Your body just naturally gets stronger. And with the intention to progress, now your movements evolve and they continuously evolve. And they can evolve to the limit to where we want to go. And so this practice has been evolving over time. And what happens is my own personal practice that I do, sometimes I will do some extra moves. Like for example, the drop down arms. A lot of times people just kind of do this because they're still kind of working on the rhythm in their body. And then they go, okay, and they go, and they're kind of they're a little more stiff, but they're working on it. And then they're like, oh, okay, I could do this double bounce. So it's like a little more rhythm. Okay. And then afterwards, they can start to put in their hips. They're like, you see, and this is still the same movement. And then so it's like, so now when they're doing this versus this movement when they first started, it's the same movement, but it naturally evolves. Because when we have a concept of staying calm and relax, breathe with rhythm and things like that, naturally we follow that. You're like, okay, what can I do to still follow these concepts, but to let go more? And then naturally there's like, okay, well, my hips, like this is one thing, but keeping this so stiff, right? Just like jumping, I can jump like this, or I can jump like this. This is looser. Same thing, this is stiff, this is looser. So if I move my hips forward, naturally my knees move, and now my body drops down. So then now there's this natural movement in the hips. So then now it's like we don't ever go against the grain with our body. We just go with what feels natural. But maybe for somebody's mechanics, like that doesn't feel good. Okay, cool, they don't have to do it. Maybe they do something else. But naturally we start to let our bodies kind of guide us into being more fluid, being more mobile.